Welcome to my house. It's just been great here. It's like an actor's paradise. I got a nice apartment for being an actor. Right now I'm working on a script for Private Francis of Williamsburg, an independent film. I got cast in as a Vietnam vet. So I'm going to recall my life as a Vietnam vet, as a soldier in the Vietnam War, and relate it to a new Iraqi vet who's just come back from the war, and that's Private Francis. So I'm pretty excited about doing this because it's a chance to put a couple of elements of my life together. I know I'm pretty comfortable now and I'm famous, but you got to go back to your roots to find out things, and acting is that to me. It's going back to my roots. Whatever history I've been able to gather in my 64 years can be applied to each and every role, and especially this one. The Vietnam War was a big mistake. The Iraqi War is a big mistake, and we're just now getting out of it here in 2009 in the fall. What is it? It's October 3rd. And it's a long way from the Vietnam War, but it's very close for Iraqi vets who come back some. This film, St. Francis of Williamsburg, is about an Iraqi vet who sees the light, who is consumed by managing his stress, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or disorder, or disease, is really true for our Iraqi vets, just as it was for our Vietnam War vets. And here we are in a time when we get to repeat all that history, and I get to be in a film where an Iraqi vet meets a Viet vet, and they come to terms, and it leads to a transformation of Francis. He gives up drinking, he gives up a life and sacrifices it for the sake of doing good for humanity. That's a tall order in one scene, so I got to work on it. So pardon me, I'll get back to it. I hope you see the movie. It's going to be an independent film, and it'll come out next spring. The shooting is for about 2 weeks in October, so I figure we'll all get to see it on this tape, and hopefully it's somewhat of a hit. As I said, it was an independent film. It's not something from Hollywood, and it's being shot in Williamsburg. But I like down-home pictures. I like pictures that are about current events and take place not far from where I live. Well, I got to take the A train to Brooklyn, but that's pretty easy. 3 parts to my life. Being an actor for the stage and for film. I just happen to be a member of all the unions appropriate. How do they go? Actors Equity Association, Screen Actors Guild, and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. You got to belong to all 3 to make a living as a professional in New York. And I just found out that I had to become a member of AFTRA because I worked on a webcast under AFTRA jurisdiction. Unlike under SAG jurisdiction, you know, feature movies is Screen Actors Guild, and of course Actors Equity is for the stage. So I got to pay every one of them in order to get work under the jurisdiction of every one of them. And gee, I've been doing it for 30 years now. I first became Equity in 1976, SAG in 1980, I think, and AFTRA all along the way, in and out. But living in such an exciting neighborhood as I pursue that career, I went after many other careers. One was education. I happened to be a New York City high school teacher. And I worked at West Side High School, alternative high school, and it was a great experience. Alternative high school means kids who have been kicked out or who have left, doesn't matter which, at least 2 other high schools before they got their degree. So we are at West Side taking in kids for their 3rd chance at high school and more. Some kids even twice that amount of numbers. So you might say we had the most difficult kids in New York City to handle in the alternative system, but I got to know them so well, and it got to be a point where they were over all that past stuff. And now they're ready to buckle down. And we've had children from remarkable backgrounds, children who ended up crippled when they were 6 years old, missed 4 years of school, and then try to get back in. And we've been responsible for taking in those kids and catching them up. We're blessed with small classrooms, and we send our kids to college. And they're so ambitious about college that you can't stop them anyway. They may be very much behind in academic skills to achieve that. So we're always grateful for the bridge programs, the junior colleges, the community colleges. There's so many of them in New York City that you could just about take any high school degree and catch up with the rest of your academics in a community college and then go on to the four-year degree. So even for the most disadvantaged children, I found that in the New York City schools you can get them on. I've had students who murdered other kids from the gangster era in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, and I would give them English classes and they would write journals up about their past life being drug warriors. And to work with the kid that's murdered 4 people, for example, and then come out the other end of it. Excuse me, I got to get that. It might be a film. Hold on. Anyway, I graduated from high school when I was 62 because teaching high school for 20 years in the system was like going back to high school. A completely different set of kids, you know, African American, Hispanic, and some Anglos like me. But I grew up in a community that was full of Anglos, and our black town was outside of town, in the deepest part of Northern California, under the mountains of Mount Shasta and the Cascade Range. I grew up with deer hunters. I grew up with people who worked the lumber yards, who either drove truck or in the yards themselves. And my father, though, was a car salesman in Wairika, California. Yeah, I said Wairika, which is different than Eureka. It's still 2 different towns. Eureka's on the coast and Wairika's in the center of the state. It's the last town in California. And it was a mining town when it was first found. And when I grew up, it was a population of 5,000. Now it's about 25,000. And it's right on the border of Oregon and California going north. And if you can kind of imagine the mountainous road that goes over the Oregon border and down into Ashland, Oregon, the very next town, when I was 13, I went to Ashland, the town over the mountains in Oregon, to see Shakespeare. And yes, it is still the location of the Ashland Shakespeare Festival. And I started seeing Shakespeare plays when I was 13. I went every summer to see 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Sometimes I could stay enough to do that. And didn't have any friends there. It was a bus ride and come back. But I had no literature in Northern California before I saw those plays. And seeing them season after season, by gosh, the light shone on me. I became a convert, and that's what I wanted to do. Be an actor on a stage, not necessarily Shakespeare, but any kind of play. I got so used to seeing it, I want to be in it. And so I'm a graduate of the University of Oregon from Eugene, Oregon, and I ended up in New York pursuing this career of acting. And meanwhile, as a teacher, educator, and an actor, I got to know this great community. Hell's Kitchen. I live on 43rd and 9th. Wish I could take the camera out there and show you downstairs. I think we'll have a chance to do that later, to show you. I live 330 feet in the air. That's 330 feet at sea level, above sea level. So I'm on the 33rd floor, given about 10 feet per floor, and I got quite a view. And this neighborhood I fell in love with while living here, became a member and board member of the Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Association, and let me just show you what it's like. I'm going to open the door, and I'll show you the kind of noise that we have to deal with downstairs. The only negative aspect of living here is when you open the door and get outside, you hear the difference? Well, let me show you how I start the morning usually. Look at those towers. So I get to be out here every morning, start my day, enjoy the sights here. Instead of trees, I get buildings, and the traffic just keeps going, the noises from the buildings. I hope you can hear me talking. And my beautiful wife and I, Kathleen, we manage these wonderful gardens and create an atmosphere for ourselves despite the traffic that is calming, and it gives a nice relief. This is our backyard, our little piece of the outdoors. Gee, I hope you excuse us for the interruption. The camera fell over, and that's what happens on a very narrow balcony or back porch, or as I like to say, my backyard in Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. I became a community activist mainly to get it more calmer back here. Instead of all the traffic going all the time, maybe we could do something to mitigate it, to make it at least a smaller amount. Well, this is New York City, and we live by our trucks and deliveries and everything. So I learned a lot since over 10 years ago, before 9/11. That reminds me, I could see the smoke rising downtown over there for months and months after the event on 9/11, and big billowing black clouds coming from downtown. But even before then, I was active in the community, trying to find a way to put the trucks in one place, to put the buses in another, to make it more peaceful in our neighborhood. When we go outside and try to cross the street, it's often gridlock streets. And I must say, we've come a long way. We've met everybody. My colleagues and I, my wife Kathleen, who tends this beautiful garden, we've all joined together in the Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Association and try to make a better life. It's everything from planting trees to putting up tree guards to dealing with youth in the neighborhood, dealing with affordable housing, and all the issues that New Yorkers have to get involved in order to become a good citizen. Every day in New York is a fight with somebody, and you might as well stop fighting and just stop talking and come to some sort of agreement. Even with a big agency like the Port Authority, they ravaged Hell's Kitchen with their plans, with their Port Authority and with their bus ramps, and now they're willing to come somewhat our way and to make it better for our lifestyles by putting entrances to the tunnels, not in neighborhood areas, but in outlying areas of the West Side Highway, and to be calmer with our bus around our streets. Only 2 weeks ago, another one of our pedestrians was killed by a Port Authority bus, and it happens more frequently as pedestrian populations get higher. More and more buildings like this are built, and most of them are residences. Will create a really active neighborhood association that has more people in it and are determined to improve their quality of life. So those are the three aspects. Martin the actor, performer, Martin the educator, and Martin and Kathleen the neighborhood activist trying to make a better life. So come by and visit. Be glad to see you, and we'll have a drink together.